From the jungles of Southeast Asia to the streets of America, one conflict defined a generation and reshaped the world. This is the entire history of the Vietnam War. Our story begins long before American boots hit the ground. For centuries, Vietnam was under Chinese rule, fostering a fierce desire for independence. In the 19th century, France colonized the region, calling it French Indo. Vietnamese resistance simmered, and a young nationalist named Ho Chi Minh rose to prominence. Inspired by both communism and American ideals of self-determination, he sought to free his people. After World War II, France tried to reassert control, but Ho Chi Minh's Viet Minh forces were determined. In 1954, the French suffered a catastrophic defeat at the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. The subsequent Geneva Accords temporarily divided Vietnam at the 17th parallel, creating a communist North led by Ho Chi Minh and a US-backed anti-communist South led by NGO Shin Diem. Elections to reunify the country were planned for 1956, but they never happened. The South, fearing a communist victory, refused to participate. This set the stage for the next phase of the conflict. The United States, guided by the domino theory, believed that if South Vietnam fell to communism, neighboring countries would follow. So, America began sending military advisors and massive amounts of aid to support the unstable and often brutal Diem regime in the South. In North Vietnam, leaders were equally determined to unify the country under their rule, supporting a growing insurgency in the South, known as the Viet Cong. The situation escalated dramatically in August 1964, with the Gulf of Tonkin incident. An alleged attack on a U.S. destroyer led the U.S. Congress to pass the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, granting President Lyndon B. Johnson broad authority to use military force. This opened the floodgates. The first U.S. combat troops landed in Da Nang in March 1965, marking the beginning of America's full-scale involvement. The war was unlike any other. There were no clear front lines. American soldiers, mostly young draftees, fought a grueling guerrilla war in dense jungles, rice paddies, and complex tunnel systems against the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese Army. The U.S. relied on overwhelming firepower, launching massive bombing campaigns like Operation Rolling Thunder and using controversial chemical defoliants like Agent Orange to clear the jungle canopy. The strategy was search and destroy, aiming to eliminate enemy forces through a war of attrition, measured in body counts. Back home, the war was tearing America apart. Initially, there was support, but as the conflict dragged on and casualties mounted, a powerful anti-war movement emerged. Nightly news broadcasts brought the brutal reality of the war into American living rooms for the first time. Images of burning villages, wounded soldiers, and civilian suffering fueled protests on college campuses and in major cities. The draft became a major point of contention, seen by many as unfair and immoral. The turning point came in January 1968 with the Tet Offensive. The North Vietnamese and Viet Cong launched a surprise, coordinated attack on cities and towns all across South Vietnam. Militarily, it was a disaster for the communists, who suffered immense losses. But politically and psychologically, it was a stunning victory. The attack shattered the American public's belief that the war was being won and that the end was in sight. Trust in the government plummeted. President Johnson, his credibility destroyed, announced he would not seek re-election. Richard Nixon won the presidency in 1968, promising peace with honor. His strategy was Vietnamization, gradually withdrawing U.S. troops while training and equipping the South Vietnamese Army to fight on its own. At the same time, he secretly expanded the war, ordering bombing campaigns in neighboring Cambodia and Laos to disrupt enemy supply lines. This expansion led to more outrage, culminating in tragic events like the Kent State shootings, where National Guardsmen killed 4 student protesters. Years of difficult peace negotiations in Paris finally led to the Paris Peace Accords, signed in January 1973. The agreement called for a ceasefire, the complete withdrawal of U.S. troops, and the release of prisoners of war. For America, the war was over. The last U.S. combat troops left Vietnam 2 months later, but for the Vietnamese, the fighting didn't stop. Without American support, the South Vietnamese Army crumbled. In the spring of 1975, North Vietnam launched a final decisive. On April 30th, 1975, North Vietnamese tanks crashed through the gates of the presidential palace in Saigon. The city was renamed Ho Chi Minh City, and after decades of brutal conflict, Vietnam was finally unified under communist rule. The legacy of the Vietnam War is profound and painful. Over 58,000 Americans lost their lives. The number of Vietnamese casualties, both military and civilian, is estimated in the millions. The war left deep scars on the American psyche, creating a lasting distrust of government and a reluctance to intervene in foreign conflicts, known as the Vietnam Syndrome. Veterans returned home not to parades, but often to a nation divided and indifferent, facing physical and psychological wounds that would last a lifetime. For Vietnam, the cost was even greater. The country was devastated, its land poisoned by Agent Orange, and its society fractured. Yet, in the decades since, Vietnam has experienced a remarkable recovery. Today, it is a unified, rapidly developing nation that has, in a twist of history, become a partner to the United States. The Vietnam War was a complex tragedy, the story of nationalism, Cold War ideology, and immense human suffering. It serves as a powerful reminder of the complex consequences of war and the enduring spirit of those who lived through it. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through history. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. We'll see you in the next one.